1. Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Greetings, welcome back, and happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate, turkey holidays, to everybody out there, to an early Into the Nexus. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. I'm joined, as always, by Kyle Fergusson. Happy early show, Kyle.
Happy early show, Garrett. We've got a fantastic mailbag episode today.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things to talk about, but basically this entire show, even the strategy segment, is brought to you by questions either sent to the inbox at itncast@gmail.com or from the Patreon chat channel that we just launched in our new and improved ITN Discord, which is just linked directly to the Patreon. So if you're a patron, you got Discord linked up to your Patreon. You're in there. You're there. You're already there. So you can go over there right now if you want. And post questions for future episodes of Into the Nexus. But if you're wondering to yourself, oh my God, it's Tuesday, what's happening? It's because Thanksgiving's on Thursday. We both live in the US of A, and we will be celebrating it. And that's when we usually do this show. And then I will also be in a car tomorrow driving to Thanksgiving celebrations.
Travel is an important part of the family get-together.
That it is. I will say, I'm very glad I don't have to get on a plane this time, though.
Planes suck.
I'm done with them. I actually don't mind them, but I've never flown this much. Well, actually, no, never mind. They also had a drive. Whatever the case is, I'm done with planes for a little while. I'm good. Our last connection was a little close for comfort.
We need to plant bushes in all our backyards.
What does that have to do with planes?
Because then we could just Dahaka around.
Oh,
hey, back in Heroes.
Hey, there it is. There it is. You're talking about globals, but also Falstad is grounded. His flight has been nerfed, and the war on globals continues.
Yeah, Brightwing. Oh man, Brightwing's kind of rough because if you teleport to a friendly family member, ideally they're friendly, you are then set. You have to stay there for a set required amount of time, and if we're doing game time, that could be a full week. That'd be too much.
It would be. That'd be really rough. She'd have a hard time seeing all the family. This is silly. Anyways, there are a couple of minor news things we did want to talk about before we crack open that mailbag, so let's get into it.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Put me to the stage.
Click the play button. And let's get started.
Hotslogs is now combining its data on the main page between Hero League and Team League. It's just all smushed together. I'm very excited about this decision.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do, though it does inflate Cho'Gall to the very top win rate in the entire game with a popularity of 4%. For some reason, Cho has a popularity of 5%. Gall has a 3% popularity, so, stats.
Just need to take that into account. It's not like we didn't have weird heroes in the very high spots when it was just Hero League before. I'm looking at you, Probius.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at you. So it's just, it's fine. I think if you're using Hotslogs regularly, you're used to taking a look at that popularity column, looking at that games played, looking at that games banned, seeing just how popular these heroes actually are. How many games are we actually getting data for?
You should probably set it by map, too, if you're going to use the Hotslogs tool. It's worth removing that variable. And man, it's a complicated game we play, Heroes of the Storm. When we're going to talk some particular map strategies today on the show, but you got to wait for that map to pop in order to use these sweet strategies. It is a diverse game, and you have to have a lot of game knowledge.
That you do. But luckily, at least there's one thing you don't need to worry about on one map in particular, and that's channeling the Dragon Knight from nowhere near the middle lane, Kyle.
Yes, apparently the Dragon Knight was channelable from behind, and if you know the layout of Dragonshire, there is a big old bush wall right behind it. and you could load up in there at your heart's content.
Yep. On the Hero subreddit, you can see a clip of such an egregious action happening, but it has since been fixed. Don't need to worry about backdoor Dragon Knight channeling. But yeah, when you watch it, I kind of get it. I see how the geometry of the Dragon Knight statue extends kind of back there. I can see, knowing nothing about how this bug made it into the game, but I can at least understand how it might be possible.
Yeah, I assume it's a radius, and he could be channeled from any radius there. It's just the trees on left and right restricted the full circle that was available to him with this bug active. Now it's back to a frontal cone, being only the steps with the little Nexus symbol that you're able to load up into.
As the Dragon Queen intended? I don't know who the lore figure is talking to us now about her dead husband on that map. Who is she?
I do like the look of him, though. I'm a big fan of the visual rework on the dragon.
Yeah, the visual revamp is great. I'm all for it. It's very good. But yeah. What's going on with this sale? Because the post on the blog confused me, and then Mr. Jeff Kanata confused me further by tweeting at us.
So this is the sale. That's really what I want to announce to everybody. What you see in game that started on November 13th is the sale for Black Friday that'll run until November 27th.
Okay, they just waited till today to make a post about the sale that had already started a week ago.
To an extent, right? They put out boosts and the hero bundles maybe a week early with Orphea because they were ready to go. And then there was some confusion. Oh, do we buy these things now? Should I wait? Is this as big as the sale's going to get? Yes. This is your 360-day boost sale. All right. So if you want that thing, get it now. It's not going to decrease in price. And don't wait around because on that November 27th will be the Janitor Leoric as well as the Kevin announcer. So that will not be a part of a future sale. Get these things if you desire them now.
Yeah. All right. Good to know. Strange that it came up now as a blog post.
A little confusing, right? But there were lots of confused people.
Yep. Is there somehow any hero in these bundles you don't already own?
No, I actually own them all. Most of them are just with gold. But, when you play a lot, gold's pretty easy to get. I don't re-roll my... I sit on my chest. I probably got some 45 chests right now that I'm sitting on.
Oh, wow. Okay, I don't. I just crack those suckers.
Yeah, I like to sit on them because, every once in a while, like the Alterac event rolls out. And I wanted stuff from that. So I just went and opened up a bunch of things until I got the variant I wanted. And then I stopped.
I did. So, that's a good strategy. I can get down with that. So what I was going to bring up is much like Monkey Brightwing, I take pride in not owning the Lost Vikings, and that's it. That's the only thing in those bundles I don't own.
Oh, wow.
I don't like playing them.
I mean, you never once were like, hey, I want some Zergling Hydra Roach action. Maybe I'll play some Lost Vikings.
No. I have that all the time, and I play Zagara. I know what you mean, though. I'm just being a jerk. I know exactly.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I know exactly what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Not for me.
It's busy.
Rexar is as many heroes as I want to control at one time, which is one and a half, and Rexar is a half.
Still a lot.
Yeah. So, anyways, before we move into our strategy segment, which is also part of the mailbag, let's thank our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. And also, it's Thanksgiving, so we should be cheesy and also say we are, honestly, very thankful for the patrons. It means a lot, and we've gotten quite a few new patrons since last episode. We really appreciate it, everybody. We're very close to our next goal. And on this episode, we want to thank the following more recent patrons, not the newest. We go in order, so there's still some people to thank. But thank you to, right off the bat, Smooth Banana.
Sweet.
It's a good name, Smooth Banana. I'm going to assume that that's a handle. And then also Daniel M., Gordon D., and Tyler C. Thank you for the support, everybody. And if you like Into the Nexus and you're thinking, boy, there's a lot of listener-submitted content this episode, head on over to patreon.com/ITN to support the show and also get access to our patron Discord. So
we also enjoyed our games last week with the patrons. We fought some savage mid-season teams. who were very prepared with their massive wombos.
Lessons were learned, and some of them were hard.
Well, hey, at least now the episode before we were talking like, hey, I think Valeera is kind of big, and you felt the sting. It happened.
Yes, I felt the shank. Kyle, calling it a sting is putting it mildly.
Yeah, the garrote is more likely.
Yeah, if my Rainer has no more kidneys, they have all been punctured.
It'll always be Karazhan to me.
Karazhan?
Yeah, because the chef, the caretaker, in the
Morose.
food hall.
Morose,
yeah.
Yeah.
He'd do the garrotage.
Oh, you're right. You are absolutely right. Sorry, I should have put that together. But whatever the case, we have multiple battlegrounds to talk about today, so let's move into it.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
Yeah, no clue what that means.
So, Sevenisu wrote in and asked, any tips for Braxis? Solo or 4-man? It's hard to control top and bottom.
Yeah, a big question. And
it is.
It's something worth going deep on because Braxis is perhaps one of the most unique maps we have in terms of the struggle between the lanes, the exchange we have with that map. It has been reworked as of July 10th. So if you're coming back to this game, hey, get ready for a whole new Braxis.
Yeah, it's worth, I think a slight history lesson is worth bringing up because that July 10th update made some noticeable changes to the Zerg wave. Now, I know Sevenice has been playing for a while, but since we're on the subject, let's give a refresher. If you want to hear about this in more depth, you can go back and actually listen to episode 224 of Into the Nexus when this update went live. But there was some snowball protection. The team who got the first Zerg wave before these changes back in July had an 84% chance of winning the game, according to the stats available to us. It is now down to a still rather high 71 and change percent chance of winning if you get the first Zerg wave. But they changed some things. The beacons now become contested immediately when heroes from both teams are on point. That did not used to be the case. And then there were some undocumented changes. The total beacon capture time was increased from 30 seconds to actually 37 and a half seconds. I'm not sure why 38 was too long, Kyle, but apparently too long.
Sure.
Yeah. And then the time between 2% intervals was increased from 0.6 seconds up to 0.75 or 3/4 of a second.
So what they went on to do was basically give the losing team, if you will, both teams are able to channel and build up these Zerg waves that are going to push their lanes. If you do not reach half, you will still get half a Zerg wave, basically. And
yes,
that is going to be 6 Zerglings, 10 Zerglings with the 2 Hydras, the 1 Guardian, and the Ultralisk. So before, just 6 Zerglings would pop out and it'd be the saddest little thing you've ever done, and the snowball would be awful.
I did enjoy thinking of it as like a 6 pool, though.
It was cute. It was cute in that way. A nice little reference.
Yes, yeah, but totally just horrible for map balance and potential and comeback potential.
Now you do have to address the Zerg wave. Even if you have a complete stomp of a victory, there has to be somebody who's going to go up there and clean that out. These guys will do some really good damage, get down that wall, maybe even get down the fort if left completely alone. Previously, what would happen? You dominate the map, you'd 5-stack into your Zerg wave, you'd CC, you do the damage, you kill everybody, and then you push to win, and it'd be rather atrocious. So one thing we talk about on this show pretty often when we're talking about map strategies are you drafting to lose? And this comes and goes, like, for example, Dragonshire Leoric. Are you drafting to lose? If you're fighting Blaze, maybe. Maybe not. You've got someone to drain over there. You're really good at Leoric, but at the same time, you might be thinking to yourself, man, this will be really good at killing the dragon. Well, there's only one dragon. So it's not always worth thinking, I'm getting Tychus because I want to kill the dragon if they get it. Well, they already got it. They're already winning. You're thinking from behind already.
Yeah. Now, if you're a god like Leoric or a god like Tychus, that's on you. That's your call to make. But yes, And on Braxis, we used to be very hot to trot for taking Arthas into this to freeze the Zerg wave.
But at the same time, were you drafting to lose? Arthas, bit more forward potential. But the real thing to think about now is that strong AoE damage is not bad. You're not drafting to lose anymore. We used to do really tight team fights, very focused fire sort of comps on Braxis, perhaps with something really hardy like a Muradin who would just sit on that pad. Those things have really changed. The pad has changed. If anyone enters the pad, you start giving that away back to 50%, down to neutral. So just kind of tanking it like you do on Dragonshire isn't going to complete that Zerg wave for you. There's no noble sacrifices to get that Zerg wave anymore. So we've really changed the types of tanks we take on Braxis and the way we play them, as well as we now encourage everybody to take a little bit of AoE damage. In fact, that's the real sort of brawly, more Team League, certainly Hero League way to do things. It's just lots and lots of AoE damage.
And so it just plays into the strategy of the map as it is. So if you're drafting for a strong defense, you're also drafting for a strong offense because AoE is in.
So let's talk about the draft first. It's gonna be a bit of a drafter's sandwich. It's a complicated issue talking about a map in total, but we're gonna do it. We're going to talk real nitty-gritty here. So let's talk about the 4-stack first, because it's tradition. It happened. Technically, we shouldn't all just go into the bottom 4-stack. There should be a 4-1 versus a 4-1, because the way the lanes are laid out. The lanes on Braxis aren't even. One side's towers are slightly closer to the pad. And that goes for top and bottom. There are slight advantages. The map is kind of lopsided in that way. The top, if you're on the right side, has access to fire bats. But if you're on the left side soloing, you've got a big ol' bruiser camp that you probably can't do by yourself. And if you could, it'd take all your mana or all your health, or it'd take a long time. You got to really be winning. You're giving them too much map control if you go Sonya that thing.
And you're losing out on XP. Lopsided. Yeah, you're losing out on XP. It's not an easy map to rotate on.
So that's going to direct a lot of the ways we talk about this map, and we're gonna focus in what is your easiest strategy. Some of these things are gonna be better for Team League where you're organized when you're 5-stacked, but go with us on this journey. So let's get started. So the AoE damage we talked about a little bit. That is the team fight. Everybody's trying to maneuver, stack around each other, dealing large AoE damage in a poke environment. So basically any of your mages are going to do really well here, and it's very important to have one because that's how you wear down the enemy and beat their support. You need to damage them. You need to get them off the pad because they can no longer just camp on it.
Yeah, and since typically we end up in the 4v4 situations in the bottom, think about the layout of that bottom pad and all of the chokes, all of the things you need to move around, and how quickly it gets congested, and just how much value you can find in your AoE spells.
Pretty obvious. Plus, AoE is going to help when you have to defend your Zerg wave, which you have to do because everybody's going to get at least a 50% Zerg wave. Tanks. You're going to need a tank. But what we talked about there is the layout of the map. These towers are so close to the objective itself, more than any other map we have, that things like Garrosh, Stitches, Diablo, to an extent, there's some really nice walls in there. Maybe you can do the old pick up and slam them backwards. But Garrosh Stitches do really, really well here because they can access their towers while battling over the point.
It makes them terrifying. I hate fighting against Stitches here. Garrosh a little less so, but it's still an exercise.
And Garrosh lost some of his power. You know, he doesn't hunt you down like he used to when he got his little rework there, his change up on his Q. He benefits from the snowball environment that still is in existence on Braxis, so he might be something you want to ban. I would say because of the constant team fights, though, Stitches, if you're not going to take him, really something worth controlling.
So,
and him out.
Sorry, what was that?
And him out if you're not going to use him.
Gotcha. So tanks are covered. I very quickly mentioned that it's a rather difficult map to rotate on but can you draft for rotation?
Right, and you should. And that's the way that when we talk about Braxis, we put so much emphasis on the solo laner. And can they win their lane? And if they lose and they die, it is tragic. That is why it's really important to have a solo rotator, perhaps. Someone who is able to leave. You're doing all this AoE damage. Look at what we talked about there. Stitches, Diablo. These characters add a little bit of AoE damage in as well. So your waves are covered in the bottom. People can play safe without you. In fact, something like Kael'thas probably wants to be behind his towers a little bit and firing forward. These instances with great wave clear mean that you can now safely rotate up and visit. And number one here is Genji. You're going to want a rotator. What really kind of makes this on Braxis is these big old walls. You got big, hardy walls in between your axis from the top to the bottom, and bottom to top. Genji can jump them, dash through them. He's using a cooldown. It might be important, but he's able to quickly transition between the two. You want to hold on to your cooldowns when you're rotating up because you're wanting to get that gank. You want that damage. You want that closure. But coming back to join the 4-man, you can do it very quickly. Genji, Maiev, Medivh. You might have your own cute idea about how you want to do this. But those are going to be your big ones. Genji in particular is going to be a hotly contested item on Braxis every single time because of his trickery with the boss.
You're making him sound like he may come up in the band section.
He should. If you're not going to play games for him, you should play for Genji. If you're not the best Genji in the world, you should probably still go for it. You should learn Genji. Go X Strike. It's easier. Takes less control. You're not going to get CC'd during it as much. There are easy ways to play Genji, and I've showcased them many times. We've talked about them before. You can find videos online of how to play an easy Genji. Something worth doing. Fans are hotly contested. Go for Genji.
Yeah. Now, what about support? Because these fights can go on extremely long.
They can. And a lot, if you are coming back to heroes, a lot of your heroes and your supports have been limited by their own mana. And this is something where Stukov used to be a terror. He had that big old hand on the ground. Everyone's silenced when they're trying to get on the pad. But he's been limited down by his mana regen.
Yeah, exactly. And you've already spoke to the reason we're drafting AoE is to whittle people down, to drain your healers of their mana. So yeah, you should be drafting to do that, but there's a good chance that your enemy team is going to be drafting to do that as well. So how do you take that into account and draft a worthy support?
Really, your top characters for this map right now are things like Deckard Morales. Morales is the perfect example. You're going to heal targets, you're going to engage them, you're going to reduce enemy damage, and you have a infinite mana bar. In a sense, it's going to go down, your energy depletes, take a little break, but you didn't physically leave. Maybe you do that auto attack talent. Maybe you do your safeguard energy. There are grenades are great. You're going to stack them real fast in the 4-man lane. There's lots of really good level 1 options for Morales to stay in it, and she won't have to fall back and lose that presence. Like, let's say, I want to throw Uther under the bus here. He's going to have a real hard time. Lightbringer is your level 1 talent. There you melee to get mana back. It ain't going to happen in this 4-stack very often. And if you are meleeing, you're just hitting some tank and you're probably dying because you're doing it. Deckard is a special case because Deckard leaves potions. If I'm running out of mana on Deckard, I can go to that bush, buy the objective, and just sort of throw out a bunch of throw some old man potions on the ground. And while I heart, those are at least there with some presence. Somebody can access those in my absence.
Gotcha. So anything besides Morales and Deckard, Stukov is pretty much out, in your opinion.
It's going to be 2 mana expensive. You'll have to hearth.
Yeah.
They're cute ideas. Like, I love that hand on the pad. I love the big melees when people are trying to force themselves into it. But you're going to run out of mana in the early game, and that's where this map is really decided. Ana might not be the worst.
Gotcha. Okay. And I like that we can start to have this conversation, because where my brain goes with this is this is what, these are guidelines, this is what you should be drafting, especially if your enemy can draft in this fashion. I think what you're getting at is one of, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the worst situations you can find yourself in is your enemy gets Morales or Deckard and you don't get the other hero and you just can't match their marathon healing.
Yeah, but that's really what it comes down to. Is it is going to be rough on Healers like Brightwing, they're infinite, sure, but you're not going to spend your hero global to go visit the top lane. Ariel is a really case-by-case basis. That is worth saying. Like, I love Ariel on this map. If both teams have the AoE, she's not very maneuverable. She's going to get stuck in that AoE. Then you got to heal yourself. You got to heal too many people at once. They have a blizzard. You're trying to force people into circles to heal them up. It's kind of that Alexstrasza situation, too. So there's some give and take here. White main can be really good, but we're getting really heady and more skill-based when we're talking about white main, Alex, Ariel. Fine choices, but beaming someone on Morales, and then just throwing out random stones on Deckard and being like, hey, okay, let's get some root stacks. Let's do some scrolls of Identify, perhaps. Let's do some sapphires and guarantee those lockdowns. Like we talked about last week, roots are very powerful. It's much easier to do.
Yeah. So we haven't talked about the solo lane.
No.
We haven't talked about drafting for the solo lane.
This is a big conversation, and it comes down to solo laning. I have included a link to something we talked about a lot in the past, the solo laning guides. They are constantly going in and out of date. This one of my favorites is still Rioma's. It's a great guide. It goes into some actual text about how you want to solo lane against particular people. Some of these are things like, don't get hit by Arthas's auto attack. Don't ever close that damage. Don't close that range. Someone not listed here, but for instance, not a solo laner in many cases. You want to be doing the double soak. But let's talk about Zul. Zul, if you're aware of his range on his bone prison, you can perfectly avoid it the whole time and not let him close to that distance. And those simple understandings of your enemy hero are really going to benefit you. Does the Ragnaros like to meatball backwards? Well, always step forward then, darn it. But you got to learn that about that guy in the middle. So solo laning is a really complicated thing. It's going to be an ebb and flow. There are counter plays. We've talked about on episode 233, the rock, paper, scissors format, talking about regens, damage, and lane clears, and who can go back and forth amongst those. Going to be a comfort pick. Ideally, there's a rotator to help you out up there. What you're really looking for, and identify this for yourself, because that's what really matters, particularly if you're below plat. Token survivability. Can you survive while on the pad and in the lane?
It's a good way to break it down. And if you want to go see these guides, head on over to amove.tv/ITN and look for the episode 244 post. Link at the bottom. All right, so we talked about trying your best to set up as close to a perfect scenario as we can. But what happens if things don't go according to plan?
Right, let's talk about some certain scenarios.
Yeah. So let's say we're in a stalemate.
Yep. So one pad is always grabbed. Maybe they have control of bottom and you've got control of top. Your solo laner is doing great, but you just can't get in there 4v4. That's the time to take a Merc camp. Turn around and get your Merc camps. Now, these are lopsided, like we were saying. The right side of the map has a bit of an advantage in the 4-stack, and you should really, really favor that. If you see you are locked in, go grab those Goliaths. Just 4-stack on over there. Take it all out, and then push out with it.
So mercenaries, in your estimation, are not about timing. It's about the situation you find yourself in.
Right. So, and there are other strategies to it. If you are completely behind, let's say you cannot access any of the points the solo laner's losing, you can't win your 4-man fight, this is when you do the circle. And
as a 5-stack?
Yeah, full 5-stack.
Okay.
Everybody groups up. And you just go, pad, force that fight. Maybe you win. Maybe you don't. If you don't, then the strategy's over. But camp, pad 1, camp, pad 2. And you just make a big old circle starting on your side. And that's how you're going to redominate the map. You're going to get some Merc camps out there. They may help with the Zerg waves. You might get some kills that completely bounce you back in XP-wise, and then you're able to clear without them frustrating you during their Zerg wave oncoming. This is the best recovery strategy. Just do a big old circle.
This is a great piece of advice, too, for pickup games, because we all like just getting together and killing things.
It's going to be tough to orchestrate because people, here we're dealing with that bonus resource tilt a lot. We're going to have the solo laner is probably embarrassed if you have to resort to this in a solo league game. It's going to be rough on them. But if they can, take their lumps, get in there and join the 5-stack, there's a very good chance you're going to make some magic happen out of this.
What do you like to type when you want to try and call for this in a game where you're not on comms? Just keep it going and talk with pings?
Just camps. Camps. We lost the pads, camps. Those are all good things to say. If you're the tank, you can direct people there. This is something that you should be very swift about. And this works even better if you've already sort of relayed this information before. Like during that first stalemate. Because the big circle, that's going to happen when all is lost. The wave is coming. It's building up. You're not going to get the pads. We got to 5-stack this. Let's get some camps rolling. But even before that, if you took a camp during one of those stalemates, they're already listening to you in those situations.
I like that.
So let's say it's wave time. Wave time comes up. With the wave, send your strongest siege damage. And this is not what you think it is, because we think siege and specialist. Siege damage is things like Artanis and Vala. Solo targets often that are going to lock onto a building and kill it dead.
Yeah, it's a good way to explain it.
You got to watch out for CCs on the Hydra collapse. It's always worth saying that if you are fighting against the wave or with the wave, you should be very mindful of using your CCs when those Hydras lose their targets. Great example would be, let's say, taunt Varian. You want to taunt somebody. You want to kill them. Those Hydras, though, are currently attacking some tower. The second they stop, they're going to look for their nearest target. And that is a huge amount of damage. Really watch those Hydras and CC them when they're about to lose their target. Same thing. You have a fort. Final minions going down, you get out of there, right? Do the same thing with Hydras. Treat them with respect.
All right, so that's a very good time to start talking about fighting against the wave. Who do you send to go deal with the wave? Is this the point where your mage breaks off from the group?
This is where you want to send your strong lane clear. And somebody who's very good at this, for example, is someone like Phoenix, Ragnaros, Gul'dan. They're a little more resilient than your solo Kael'thas. If you want to do a solo defense, send one of those three. They're a great pickup. Ragnaros and Phoenix can also take that solo lane, which is a pretty nice little idea. Then you're kind of playing it like Battlefield Eternity, what people are used to. Okay, wave time. You guys go have fun. I'm going to go handle the stuff. So Ragnaros, Phoenix, really great drafts for that solo lane. Personal skill, so on. It depends. Think about those guys.
And then at the end of the waves, it's basically another bonus round for mercenaries, right?
Right. So you're going to have your big respawn session while all these mercenaries come on, and you can redo the circle. If you are ahead, if you got kills with the wave, well, then you just proceed right on to their half of the map and do the circle in that direction. But if you lost, your half the map, knock out those mercenary camps so they're available once again if you have to circle again because you lose. So this is a great tool on either side. Winning, enemy side, losing, your side. But you still want to make sure you get 2 merc camps, because what's going to happen often is people get back to laning, people try to reestablish their comfort. You miss that first initial respawn of merc camps, and then you maybe get the secondary ones. You missed out on a whole wave.
It's a good way to think of it. It's you're basically explaining like fountain timing in the very beginning of a lot of games.
Exactly. Which is worth saying once again. 1 minute. At 50 seconds, 1 minute, you are free to use your well. If you use it after that, it's going to be delayed for the first objective.
Yep. I know we were planning to talk about drafting to lose. Do we need to say any more on it? I feel we kind of already touched on it.
Not really. I want to really highlight Phoenix as being really good at a lower league open job here. He can handle that solo lane well enough. He can do a lot of the independent jobs you want him to. He's not as complicated. You don't have to think about your ability rotations as much as something like Ragnaros. Gul'dan requires a lot of team backup. Really kind of favor that. And we talked earlier about Genji as well and the boss trick. The boss loads up its guns and in this big rectangle fires repeatedly. You turn on your deflect and you put tons of damage with all these little tiny hits into the boss, and you can burn it dramatically. When you take a boss, you have an 81% chance to win this map. And it makes sense too, because you got enough map control to take a boss. You might as well be ahead. It might be an 81%. That makes sense.
But
you're gonna get huge damage.
Question is though, should you push with the boss? Are you actually increasing your chances anymore?
You should then favor controlling the map, doing your circle, getting your pads. Only 14% of games are won alongside a boss.
Gotcha. So you don't need to double.
A great amount of map control there.
So getting the boss itself is the victory. You don't need to fight under it.
Exactly.
All right.
And that's where the damage comes in. That's why we are really highlighting these higher damage characters in that 4-man. And in an easier world, that solo is Raynor Phoenix, not Ragnaros. You know, Sonya's cute and she can really do a merc camp. That's great. Particularly if you got lucky and you're on that right side, you have access to your fire bats. But the huge amount of damage that these characters bring allow you to access that boss very quickly and start giving you that numbers advantage, the statistical advantage.
Gotcha. All right, so rapid fire draft tips. Who should we be banning? Obviously Genji. If we're not going to be taking the Genji.
Right, we've been on quite the journey here. So let's circle back around, particularly for those bans. We got to ban Genji if we're not going to play games for him. And you should ban and restrict the enemy mages you don't want to deal with. Kel'Thuzad might be one, particularly in Team League, you want to control. Jaina, Kael'thas. Think about your personal group and what they do. Do they spread living bombs? Are they pretty good about getting out of circles, though? Okay, well, let's let Jaina be open. Maybe we'll try for her. But we'll get rid of Kael'thas.
I have really come around on Kel'Thuzad on Braxis. I used to get really excited when he was taken on the opposing team, but since moving over to the Team League, he's a scary lich.
Yeah. And you go into your first picks, and, you know, you ban Genji, Mal'Ganis, maybe an Orphea got in there, the Cho'Gall. These things happen. Bans get a little weird. First thing you want to do, first two stacks you want to grab, Deckard, ideally. You want to get control of that support. I know traditionally it's freaky showing the type of support you're going to have, but getting that early, you know, Morales is diveable. There are some reasons why you might not want to show an early Morales. People might get all excited and get in your face. But Deckard's a really great early grab. And then any of those mages or Phoenix. Like I said, Phoenix is such a great one because he's going to do that mage level damage. But also, we didn't pick a solo laner. Whoops. Go do it, Phoenix. It's fine.
Right. Deckard is just good. Phoenix is just good. You're not really tipping your hand. Deckard on other maps, yeah. I look at a Deckard pick and it informs what I think they're probably going to go draft-wise, but not on Braxis.
If you get the Deckard and you have the Kel'Thuzad, then you're cooking with some fire then.
And that's why you should consider banning what you don't want to play against.
Exactly.
So, solo lane, I mean, I think much like you were saying, learning the solo lane is a very personal, very hero-by-hero basis kind of decision. Would you say the same for drafting your solo laner?
Right. There are plenty of picks, and we've talked about them quite a bit here. One of the main things you want to think about, though, is how you're going to play from behind and rewarding yourself mentally for it. Because in an ideal, perfectly matched, everybody's amazing game, they're going to have a rotator, you're going to have a rotator. Maiev, Genji, they're going to come visit, and you're going to need some resistance to that. You're going to have to keep that in the back of your mind constantly. They're tough to watch for because they like to hide in bushes down in the bottom 4 anyway. So you don't quite know if they're rotating to come get you. If they show up, if you have a 2v1 in the top, it's your job as a solo laner to stay calm, to survive.
Well, we've had
and
this.
It's the job of the 4 stack in the bottom to take advantage of the missing and charge forward. Building damage is huge here. Getting that building advantage, getting that wall down for the Zerg wave so it can collapse and do its concave on the buildings without that wall causing the interrupt is going to be a really big deal. So anytime, oh no, Raynor's getting ganked. He's fighting Ragnaros and Genji. There goes Raynor. No, suck. No. There's 2 up there. There's 4 down here. Go get some buildings right now.
It's one of my favorite post-game conversations that I feel comes up fairly often when we play together, whether it's Bonanza or not, is the thought of, oh man, Looking kind of boring for you up there in the solo lane, and then going with, no, that was doing my job. It felt great. I was glad I kept us in the XP game, even though I was sitting behind the wall for a large majority.
Yeah, you should always mentally reward yourself if you are a full-blown solo laner. Rexxar is a great example. If you're a Rexxar and there are 2 people fighting you in lane, hot diggity damn, you just won the video game.
Yep. Yeah. It should be a good feeling, a very good feeling. And then finally, let's kind of wrap this up with some power picks for Braxis.
We talked about stitches, gorging, hooks. You are so close to those tower ranges. Same with Garrosh. They can be very powerful here. If you notice that your team is well-bodied, so let's say they went stitches and then we got a Sonya who's doing top lane and the last guy picked a Thrall. Well, now you've got 2 self-regenerating frontliners. One of them is going to be able to stand on that pad, whether Stitches is zoning. That's really where it comes down. If the tank is zoning, who's on the pad? Well, it could be Kael'thas because he's got a stun and it's not horribly damaged for him. You know, it's spooky, but if you got that Thrall, if you got that second melee in the 4-stack, Chromie Hanzo. Really, really powerful picks here. Great at stacking, great at getting those picks on the objective when it comes time. Sandtrap is just amazing here. There's tons of reasons to take these guys if you notice enough body to actually control the point.
I like that. Chromie feels, to me, I always look at it like this is a very passionate pick. Most people are into it, but Hanzo, more and more, seem to just be a hero most people know how to play.
You got a really great wall to disengage, too. Just like we're talking about with Stitches, that wall on a diagonal, your leap will take you right over it into tower range. So you can get out real safe if you want to occupy that pad yourself. You've got all your little time traps around to run away through. Someone's got to be on that pad for you, though. So draft with consent.
Shall we move on to Adonius's question?
Yeah, there is a lot, like I said, a lot of nuance to the solo lane. Weinzierl, passionate gens, Greymane, Zul'jin, Va, like there's options, and don't be over restrictive in your mind. If you don't trust your solo laner, be that rotator. Help them out.
Well, we hope we helped you, Sebanisu. Let us know how it went.
Honestly, I think the biggest piece of advice there is the circle. Because playing from behind is really hard on Braxis.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't think it's as hard to coordinate nowadays with so many of us playing in Team League, but that does not guarantee you're going to be on comms. I think the biggest hurdle to get over there is communicating that rotation to your team.
Yeah, not easy to do, but calling good Merc camp timings in the first place will set that tone.
And it gets easier if you even have one friend grouped with you to get those kind of movements happening on a map. But our next map talk is going to come about because Adonius wrote in and said, my Team League team has had a lot of trouble with Towers of Doom. I know that the pro strat is to control the bottom lane the whole time, but whether we attempt that or not, we always seem to be so disorganized and reactive when it comes to the objective. What are your strats on some of the common altar configurations, especially the 2 top 1 mid configuration that is always first, but also others? How many team members should go to each altar? Which should be prioritized? I'm sure it's not one size fits all, but what are some things to consider in the moment when I'm not shot calling for the team? So, doesn't want us to get too it depends, but some, helpful general tips.
The biggest tip here, and the one that is hardest to do, is skippable objectives. This whole map it does core damage. You're not giving map control often when you give up an altar. Unless it's really low, and then you're giving map control because you're going to be panicked later on, and it depends. But you can always skip objectives here. They give no XP. You can wait until you have a favorable power spike. Is your team late game, early game? Those can inform when you do objectives. You can also do cute fort stuff. So you talk about, stacking the bottom lane, which is something we talked about here. It's very scary when it happens to you because you just feel completely zoned out of the map. There are other strategies beyond that, and one is just noticing that you have a better siege build than team fight. If you're low on team fight, what you can do is prep the towers, go around and almost kill them. And right before the objective that you have to give because they're ETC womboing you to oblivion and back, you just run forward, you destroy those towers that you were sitting on, these being the bell towers, the forts. They go down. That's not worth as much anymore to the enemy team. You have just negated some of the damage they built to your core, and that's a better counterplay than panicking and rushing in there.
Yeah, you said it already. You don't get experience. You're not giving up map control by not going and defending an altar. You know what's even better than that type of freedom is barely taking any core damage by giving up an altar. I love this. That's one of my most passionate things is the realizing that you can intentionally not finish off a fort. Because I remember the very first time in the tech alpha when I realized you could wait to capture a mercenary camp. I'm like, oh my God, that's something you can do. You can time that up with something to make it more impactful. This is the next level of that.
And it's tough to do. Just like avoiding touching that mercenary camp. Everybody's on it. Not everyone really understood what you said, but it gets taken off. Bummer. It is tough to call people off a almost dead fort.
Yeah. But again, that's you want to talk about kind of strategy. That is something that you can let everyone know while you're waiting for the countdown. You know, if you're the laner, you know, I'm going to use Zagara because I always use that as my example. If you're the Zagara, you just before the game starts say, hey guys, I'm going to do my best to get the forts within an inch of their life before each altar phase. If you see a low fort, don't finish it.
Right. In my league, I can say prep the tower and everyone sort of knows what we're talking about. There's no confusion there, but we do have to be, you know, it might warrant a bigger statement. Back when I played a lot of Tyrael, let me die, I'll explode for shields, when that was a thing. Those early big sentences and paragraphs, that's the time to get people to read them.
God, I miss your Tyrael days.
Me too,
Just
man.
you yelling, let me die, stay. I loved it. It's great.
It was fun, alongside that overpowered gray main back in the day.
Oh, jeez. I never picked up the gray main. Never happened for me. But
let's talk about the actually playing the map and not the wiggly world of we overdrafted siege on a map we can't actually access the core on.
Yeah, draft poke.
Yeah, that's a solid way to make sure that you are able to delay. It's really common and very dangerous for you to think that your solo lane all the way down in the bottom, and maybe they're top, but let's talk about the bottom first. That's Zagara in the bottom lane.
Mm-hmm.
It's super easy, particularly in Team League, when you have everybody on comms, to yell down to Zagara and go, delay Zagara! And she's like, what? And then all four of you get your side altar and then try to dive the enemy side because you want to real badly. And you want to be on their half the map kicking their butts. And Zagara, surely with banelings and stuff, she can delay. That's actually backwards. We're thinking about that wrong. Instead, we should have the solo, ideally a global, taking our top, our safe side during the 2-1. And then flying down, joining the 4v4 that we're having around the middle. And I see this a lot. And yeah, I want to take a moment to let that sit in. That is where we're supposed to be having the 4v4, is the middle altar.
Okay, so we're getting very specific about the very first altar phase of the map because it's always two in the top, one in the middle, bottom area.
Right.
Okay.
So, when you're drafting, get that global. If you wanted, so here's your two choices. If you got a poke like Chromie, you might do the 4 top, go for their side, and then poke out the bottom. But asking your poor Thrall, Zagara, Dahaka, whoever it may be, to just man it up down there in the middle, it's a pretty rough order. And you probably shouldn't do it to them. But it's really darn tempting.
Yeah. I would say it's okay if in a perfect world they're only having to contend with one enemy trying to take the altar, but if the opposing team does what you just mentioned and they try to force stack the bottom altar, that's not happening. There's not enough roach drops in the world to stop that altar from being channeled.
The scary thought is that we only got one and we didn't interact with them, and that's where I feel like the fear happens, is we left our, let's say, Falstad's channeling the top on our half. and we were 4 stacked in the bottom, and they never showed, and Falstad gets zoned out and loses altar. That's where we have to remind ourselves again that they made the mistake. They have given up their map control. We have access to both the camps. We have access to the entire bottom here. That we won, even though our core took more damage, and that requires some mental gymnastics to fathom when the Gravekeeper's barking in your ear that you messed up.
Yeah. At the same time, though, with the nature of Towers of Doom, if there's any battleground that should at least help a little bit with arriving at that conclusion, it should be this one. The comeback potential is massive.
Your globals here can be Brightwing, Dahaka, Falstad. Malthael Pale Horse isn't a bad idea, though I don't see a lot of Malthaels these days. Things that can clear walls, Genjis, like we talked about on Braxis there, can make it a little swifter to his positioning. But getting that back altar and having a little bit of survivability is going to be your best move here. And you set that up for later, and you're going to use it again. What you can do is, if you are missing the global, that's when you want to go for. So that's why you see it happen. That's where we get all confused. I think it's a quick match thing. We don't always have a global. We don't always draft for Towers of Doom. And that's why we try to do the 2 top, is because we're all there. And we charge forward, and our support takes the back, and we fight, and try to take their side altar. That is a reaction to not having a global, not having somebody who can make this rotation in the first place.
Well, and even if you had a global, it also takes the coordination to set that up.
Exactly.
And it's just not something we see all the time. But you're right. Because you reported to the top altar in the first place, you're already there. Where should you go next? Well, they haven't taken theirs yet. Let's see what we can make happen. But I think you've laid it out very well. You're taking a larger chance of only getting 1 by doing that.
Also, 1 kill versus 4 kills. If you pick a 4-man fight and you lose that, a lot rougher than if that 1 solo Falstad dies and they get some tower shots out of it.
It's very much like what we were talking about with the solo laner on Braxis. If you pull 2 heroes, yeah, you're having to sit behind the wall. You might be a little bored, but you should consider that a victory. And same thing here with Towers of Doom. You may have taken some core shots, but because of your map control, you should consider it a victory.
Go get those towers down. Prep them for the next time. Falstad, or Genji's a great example because he can have quite a bit of survivability. He's taking your back 1. Oh no, he got invaded by 3. Well, you killed 2 down here in the middle. We have access to the whole bottom. Let's take both the camps. Let's take both their towers. And they can have that dirty altar that doesn't matter.
Yes. It's a good way to look at it. So thank you for writing in, Adonius. And if anyone else has any other questions regarding specific battlegrounds, if you'd like something expanded upon with Towers of Doom or Braxis, feel free to write in, itncast@gmail.com, or for a patron, drop it in that patron question channel on the ITN Discord. So now, Kyle, we have a lot of questions, and we'll probably just cut quite a few of them as we move along and save them for future episodes. Let's see what's still around.
Darkness stopped calling.
Darkness just texted me.
It's not the Mober, it's the Hero Brawler!
Had to sneak in a little Lost Vikings there, because I feel I was mean to them at the top of the show.
Oh.
I love it when we take a bunch of emails, Kyle, because especially right now, it feels like Thanksgiving with the whole crew, everybody.
Yeah.
Talking about
it's
heroes
a family
together.
event.
It is. Again, itncast@gmail.com. Lord Commander writes in and says, I'm not a very big WoW buff. Loved Warcraft 3, but never got into WoW. So I'm wondering what you guys are hoping for the next Warcraft map, or what you expect the next Warcraft map will be. I'll go first. I'm still holding out hope for Arathi Basin, but if I'm being more current, I would really like to see a Lordaeron map.
Yeah, and, well, you know, there is a Stitches and Sylvanas rework coming up. If we're completely spoiled kids about it, for Christmas, Blizzard, you should do a themed undead event.
Ooh. Yeah, I like it.
Wouldn't really be Christmassy.
Yeah, but they're going to have to go and re-record all of Sylvanas' lines to make her sound completely crazy and off the rocker.
Yeah, maybe. Morally gray.
Ah!
I know that the team has tried a lot of different maps, and I'm for 100% sure that they have sat down and tried to do a capture the flag, steal the bacon kind of map, where you got to pick up something and run it all the way back to your side. I know how feral druids got in there. It'd be a very draft heavy environment to the extent of old Hanamura even. I bet it doesn't work very well, but I'd love to see it.
Would you just turn off any movement ability if you had the bacon?
Right, you got to walk. You're silenced while you got it, except for a button that says drop it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Because there would just be busted heroes.
Yeah.
Like, my God, a Genji or a Hanzo would be insane if there were any walls on this map.
Yeah, or even, certain talents like Urel's Instamount and all those sort of things. With Medivh, if they were silenced, can they still ride the portal?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, can you use a portal?
Would you friendly hook?
Yeah, there's a lot of... Because we played something sort of like this with a target dummy during the last Heroes Charity Brawl. And it was goofy.
Yeah.
It was really goofy. It was exciting, but I would like to see something with a little more finesse, hand created by the Heroes team.
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to play soccer basically with a target dummy during that, for fun event. And we saw how important that draft got and how moving anything around as a team would be very difficult and often pre-decided. I mean, I love the idea in the chat right now that there could just be bosses that we do a Nax event, Dresden says, and each boss is a different boss from that map, from that dungeon.
So there's no traditional objective. It's just there's a boss in every lane. Good luck, everybody.
Like, what if instead of wings, it opens a PvP pit that you have to defeat? What if they made a map just called Mythic Runs, and you've got a 3-lane map, but objective time pops, and you got to get to the final boss before the enemy team?
Oh, that'd be really... I mean, that would be nuts, right? Right? An objective that actively discouraged team fights? Or remove them entirely from the objective portion of the game? That's... I mean, it sounds exciting in my head, but it also sounds so groundbreaking that I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we've entered such a sane state with things like Garden of Terror having spawns. I feel like they really hit some magic there with Alterac Pass and saying, you can't solo cap this anymore. There's going to be somebody that comes and interrupts you. By the way, I did witness and do a great strat this week that just seems so simple, but hadn't really thought about. A tank the ads and then channel. Don't defeat all the ads. Just have somebody tank them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. So you run in there, you make sure you have aggro, and then the person walks up behind and grabs the objective. They don't switch aggro to whoever's targeting.
Ah, I didn't know that. Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I just really love Warcraft, so I'm probably going to be stoked with whatever they come out with. But have you moved on from Arathi Basin? I know we both used to share a dream of one day having a fairly close approximation to the battleground in World of Warcraft added to Heroes.
Yeah, I think there is room for a resource gathering, and that's how you win, and no core sort of thing. I think that'd be really exciting. It'd certainly propel a lot of team fights. Honestly, at this point, I love the maps where there are two sides. I'm an old Dota man, so seeing Radiant and a bad guy on the other side with all the Kraggles and whatnot, Battlefield Returned even. I want to see that for Horde Alliance.
I'd be down for that. Yeah, I like it. So just real quick, if you get captured a flag, is it Warsong or is it Eye of the Storm?
Oh, that's a good question. Well,
Eye of the Storm also has the Arathi mechanic mixed with its capture the flag, but
well, okay. So I would want Warsong because in Alterac Pass, Lucio can wall ride on nothing. And Eye of the Storm would have those big piles of nothing in the middle.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And Lucio would be skating on nothing the whole time.
If Eye of the Storm comes out, the middle needs to have no invisible walls, and you need to be able to accidentally walk off an edge.
Yeah, there needs to be some fall damage there.
Yeah, then just death. I want you to just die if you fall.
I don't think that's fun. No one wants to be zoned out in a fighting game, knocked out of the ring.
Smash Brothers? It's the whole point.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole point, right? Yeah. But I'm talking about like Soul Calibur, when your friend knocked you out. That was just unfair.
I know. I'm just messing with you. Freakazoid wants to know: do you think there'll be another MOBA that comes from the Warcraft 3 Reforged? This was in the. I remember reading this in the patron chat channel. I'm pretty sure this was a joke, but still an interesting question to put forward.
I mean, it certainly was one of my first thoughts, is that we go full circle and we go, wait a minute, Warcraft 3's engine is better than StarCraft. We love to complain about the StarCraft engine. Oh my God, we the Storm in Warcraft 3, and developers go, okay, hang on, we'll make it. We'll transfer over the models, everybody. Stop this madness. We'll do it. And, you know, Heroes gains itself a booster rocket for another 5 years because it gets reforged in a sense.
Well, it better get rid of the 12-unit cap if we're building any other RTSs in there.
Yeah. I mean, there is the outsourcing available is very fascinating for Warcraft 3. We, as a community in StarCraft and Brood War, made those tower defenses that became so popular. So much of what you see on Steam has been invented in the past in a custom map editor. And there could be a whole new era of those sort of things.
I was never personally a custom map guy, so it's not my particular jam, but I know so many people, you included, Kyle, who just love them.
And I love very particular ones. There's a lot of them that are very, very bad. And
well, yeah,
a lot of that came from what I might call sleepover culture. You know, you would show up and you say, hey, have you tried this custom map? No, I haven't. Let's all play it together. And that's where I played my very first MOBA. And then I went home and was like, oh my God, that was the best thing ever.
That's how I found out what a podcast was.
Yeah. Word of mouth.
Yep. Omegatron Last writes and says, I am pretty excited for the changes announced at BlizzCon. Given that you guys got to test those changes a bit, which of them are you most excited to see in the Nexus? Also, which of them do you think will have the most impact? I'm hoping you disagree with me, Kyle, but to me it's like obvious. The XP changes are going to reshape the game.
Yeah.
It's such a huge change to the game, and we've had major XP changes in the past, but we've never just straight up said, you know what, it's not on forts, or there's just not on structures anymore. No more XP for structures.
I think what we talked about last week about the fears of the XP changes are still really strong in my mind. I do agree with a lot of what we discussed last week, that we are going to reinforce Bruiser, if not global metas, and things may become even more the same than they are now. What I've become more excited about over time is something a little lame even, but max armor caps. No more armor stacking. I'm really curious to see. I think that more than XP changes is going to change the way we draft, who we put with who.
It's an interesting way to look at it. Because I was looking at the map, but you're right. That could play a very large role in how we build our team.
Yeah, and there could be bizarre rules that rise up. Let's say something like no Morales Mal'Ganis ever, because there's a darn good chance we're going to waste 25 armor and all that mana and everything else that comes with it. What if those become hard and fast rules?
I don't know. I mean, it's a consideration, right? My brain immediately goes to, cool, just train yourself to not double stack the armor. And with the new UI, it should be a lot more apparent who has what armor when. So to me, I look at that and I'm like, cool. When they change targets off the tank that has his own armor, the Morales can put the armor on the new target.
And do we enter like a whole new era, that being readable now? Knowing that armor is going to fail off, so tanks become more tanky because they're not just being spammed on by their local supports. You know, Yrel jumps in. gives armor in the area, and Morales holds off. Things become more elegant. Maybe we invent our own tag of armor. And it's like, no, we've already got Yrel. We don't want a Morales with this. That's too much. Let's invest in other areas. Like we think about lane clear, siege damage with Braxis today.
Yeah. Oh no, but it's going to be a brave new world, and it needs to get here. But there's also a very good chance we're not going to figure it out until we see it in the pros' hands. Yeah,
this is one of the spooky thoughts, too, is we will be left blind over the holidays in a lot of ways. We will make our own decisions.
It happened last year. We came out the other side just fine. We were cranky at the time, but the game's okay. It's still here. It's still standing. It didn't burn down. I'm just bringing that up to just be open to it. Keep an open mind, because we may not figure it out once it hits. Maybe a while before it's all sorted out. As for what we're most excited about, do you have a different answer other than the armor changes?
I'm most excited about periodic catapults. Like I said, I love pushing with big armies. I want to see catapults earlier.
Yeah, I haven't kept my excitement about that a secret either. You can still go back and watch our BlizzCon stream where I get noticeably excited about that fact.
Though if we're going to have catapults earlier, I do think we need to change Cyclone, because they fire too damn fast. It is very, like, you die to a catapult lane collapse. What were you doing standing there so long? You messed up. Maybe you got CC'd to the Hydra sort of thing. But those Cyclones on Braxis fire very, very fast. And just walking by a 3-stack, you can die. You're in motion. You're walking.
You have to imagine that they've noticed this internally, right?
Sure. They designed them to be a different type of unit.
I would think that whatever test they're doing is making the difference between Cyclone and most of the other catapults apparent.
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought about that.
Also, Braxis has a 94% win rate if you get the very first catapults. I mean, some of these they're all insane. They all sound insane. The lowest is Sky Temple. Sky Temple, if you get first catapult, you have an 89% chance to win. You took a keep. Yeah, you do deserve to win. But it's like, what will these numbers look like with periodic catapults? Will the map be decided even earlier?
Maybe. Not on my game, because I'm going to be playing Sylvanas and possessing those damn things.
Yeah. What about Zagara? I mean, Zagara, how does Infest work?
Infest?
Or is that only Rangers? Ranger minions deal 100% bonus damage.
It's only Rangers, so yeah, it doesn't affect the catapult.
Okay, all right.
I mean, she's still good at clearing waves, so if you're having to defend against periodic catapults, that's fine. But
and we don't have any promotes left in the video game, do we? I don't think. No, not that game. Yeah. It might be a different name, but I can't think of one.
Yeah. We should probably
maybe Tacidar's got one moldy old somewhere.
We should probably clear up Cyclones for the chat room. They are the catapults on Braxis.
Yeah, they're the big dual, like your mech warrior missile pod.
Yeah, it's a moving missile pod turret. It actually behaves differently from traditional catapults in Heroes of the Storm, and fires.
They don't have an arc.
Fast.
They fire straight line, real fast,
very fast. Hurt like the Dickens. Thanksgiving is coming. I'm having to train myself not to swear as much.
I like it.
Barry writes in and says, did either of you play Rock and Roll Racing? I hope so. I played it a lot as a kid, and while I never played the Lost Vikings or Blackthorn, I think Heroes of the Storm could use a race car like the hovercraft, or a racer who gets to choose a different car each death. There should definitely be a Rock and Roll Racing announcer at the very least. Do you think they are working on an updated version of the game as a new IP to be announced at some point? This question could be sent to Weak Sauce since I listened to both, but I really just want Rock and Roll Racing to enter the Nexus. Have you played it, Kyle?
No.
Then Barry's going to be very disappointed because I haven't either. I tried it once way after the fact, and I don't like that game at all.
I honestly, I just assumed. I'm watching my very first Rock and Roll Racing right now footage. I assumed it was like the arcade wheel where you saw the whole map from above.
No, it's
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking. You're talking about a playable racing game, which this, in my opinion, is not. This is some weird isometric view, like you're trying to race a RC car.
No, but you know, like it was from above, but you saw the whole map, and you had the race wheel, and you had to like think as you bent a corner how your wheel is now in a different, now heading downward position.
Now I understand. Well, yes, okay, I do know what you're talking about. That is also terrible, and I couldn't stand those types of racing games. But those are still easier to play than this, in my opinion.
Yeah, because this straight up limits your sight to the isometric. This is bizarre. I mean, you can see why they were ready to do isometric games. So, you know, I'm glad that this game existed so that we could have Diablo. But what the heck?
I forgot that the soundtrack was just 16-bit renditions of classic rock songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it is. I guess they got a license. It is Rock and Roll Racing.
Yeah, that was because I think I tried it once in college, which sounds hilarious. I dabbled in Rock and Roll Racing in college. I loaded it up, but I didn't play. Sorry, this is a bad joke. So I just to jog my memory, I pulled up a video today. I'm like, oh my god, that's right. The whole thing is just like it's rock and roll. Like that wouldn't be impressive today that you got a licensed soundtrack.
I gotta listen to the soundtrack. I'm a pretty big fan of the 8-bit cover.
Well, then you'll enjoy this. If you want to hear 16-bit Black Sabbath, Rock and Roll Racing has got you covered. I would be totally down for the announcer, though. The announcer is cheesy as all get out. I love it.
I didn't know a SNES. Which one was the SNES?
It was the Super Nintendo. It was also on the Genesis, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I played... I remember playing Mario Kart on this thing. Yeah, definitely that Super Mario World, where he's on Yoshi's back.
The best Mario ever.
At friend's house and whatnot.
In my opinion. Yeah, but just because I don't like the game, yeah, I'd be all for adding a Rock and Roll Racing hero to the game. Also, because I'm pretty sure we'd get some type of like Hellion from StarCraft skin for it, and I would be very into that.
I don't want to be kited. I don't know, man. As a third player, I'm not ready for Hellions. The kite meta in StarCraft, what became StarCraft. Like, I might play straight up multiplayer Warcraft 3. There's a lot less frustrating in that game, but StarCraft 2 just built itself to a world where just, oh man, it can be very, very rough.
Can't do the 12-unit cap. Drives me nuts.
It's not too bad. You set your control groups, you know? Keep your hero on 1 and keep everything else. Well, actually 1, 2, 3, because you're gonna have 3 heroes. That's where I fall apart. That's where like 16-year-old Kyle was like, no thank you. When I got 1 hero, I controlled all my army. It's fine. But the second I had to get a 3rd hero, and he was like level 4 and all of the rest are level 8, like the perspective of knowing that guy's super weak, it was stupid.
I don't like the heroes in Warcraft 3. I love Warcraft 3, but not for PvP. But
I think I'll do a little bit. I will. I know I will.
All right. Master DS writes in this week and says, I've been thinking a bit about dodges since Smash Ultimate is adding the air dodge back. Adding a directional dodge to every...
They removed it?
I guess they did. I haven't played much. Was it in Brawl? God, I haven't played...
I remember going whang in the air and you know, phasing out.
I haven't played Smash Brothers in a long time, so I don't actually remember when it left. Whatever the case is, it's coming back in. And for the sake of heroes, MessageS says, adding a directional dodge to every character will make for a different meta from the previous game, pros reckon. Makes me wonder, what if every hero's hero had a short distance directional dodge like Smash Ultimate or Diablo 3 console? How would that feel? How would that change things? Would you enjoy the increase in mobility across the board? No, I don't want this at all. It sounds so unappealing to me.
It's what Battle Right and Battle Right Royale had, and to me it's a huge homogenization. Granted, I want to play Zul'jin again, darn it, you know, and I feel like I just throw the early game by even not having any sort of mobility dodge. It's just too dangerous to stand still. And it's been that way for a really long time. I say we can address those particulars. You know, maybe let's bake in Zul'jin's movement speed talent where he can, after a couple auto attacks, build up to 10%, 20%, whatever you want to give it as a level 1. Make it, don't overquest him. Never mind. Skip that. But in League of Legends, you got Flash, which is an augment you put on your characters so that they can make these short little jumps. And it is required. You know, you're not going to pass on Flash. That may have changed. My League of Legends knowledge is rather old at this point. Dota has the Force Staff, and they do a really cool way of you build this item, and now you can push yourself. It's 600 units in that game. It's a distance. And you can push based on the direction of a hero. You can also target other heroes to do it. But I use this as a dodge on Venomancer a lot. And it's limited by the items you have to use to get it. You have to buy an intelligence, a mage item, and then combine it with a ring of regeneration, and then pay on top of that an additional huge gold price to create this item in that system. It's better for mages, so not everybody wants to take it. You know, tanks do. You got Pudge on it. You got Earth Spirit. Lots of non-mages take it, but they have to sort of take the hit in money in order to even access this thing.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who really enjoys the talent system in Heroes for what it allows the development team to do in really tailoring what every hero has access to, giving a blanket ability to every hero in the game is not something I'm particularly interested in.
Again, I wouldn't mind a Band-Aid, and I would even say that if they came out and they said, we know that all these heroes are suffering due to mobility, let's give them all, just for now, a level 1 short range roll. It'd be better as a blink and a visually to make someone roll. That's why everyone's like, Carbot mounts, we want pony sticks. It's like every hero they'd have to go through and make a little gallop animation. It'd be murderous to the design team, the art team.
Yeah.
But just going through and giving everybody a very short range blink who's suffering in that world, I would be okay with that. And then you're saying, oh, do I pick this level 1 talent or do I pick survivability short range? Survivability short range probably flies off into oblivion with how great that win rate is on it. It'd be too much, but it'd be an interesting experiment.
Do you let them blink through heroes? Do you let them blink through walls?
I think you could, do like your shifts. So like you have on Orphea, you can't go through walls, but you could move through a hero. Like Greymane Swipe is another one too.
Okay.
So what if, let's grab some low league heroes here. Chen has some trouble standing in the poo, walking out of the poo. That might be one. You throw it on him. Throw it on Zul'jin so he feels a little better about it.
You're still talking hero specific though, which I am much more open to. But
exactly, I wouldn't want Muradin to have both his leap and a little short range jumperino.
Yeah. Zactastrophe is next, and Zach says, the recent Halloween event let loose the most complex line of quests given for an event so far that I've seen. So we know that they've got some tricks for tracking stats up at HQ. Do you think we can expect any kind of change to the daily quest system with the new role rework besides just play 3 tanks with a new play 2 bruisers in place of the old warrior one? And would you like to, or would you like any kind of additional questing line? I'm always for more quests. I'd like to see more in Hearthstone, although I would argue as more has been added to Hearthstone, some are really specific and I abandon them every single time I see them.
Yeah, in a 1v1 game, though, I never felt like, play 20 pirates was making anybody ruin a game except for your own.
Right. Which is why they kind of feel bad in my mind.
Right. If you're trying to rank up and they're like, hey, play 20 pirates, and you're like, I'm not. What? I got time for 2 games tonight.
Right. To me, quests should just be a little carrot at the end of the stick for playing your game every day. I don't think they need to get so specifically tailored that they need to tell you how to play your game every day.
he's got an interesting point. And would they just add more quests? Is that one of the hangups why the new role system is being delayed, is because we got to rework those type of systems? They did mention for me in the audience, and I was the one guy who went, woo, was they're going tags. They're going to do a tag system. Could they do a tags quest line?
Yeah, that's going to be good. Although I wouldn't imagine quests are coming out because of tags. And I would think that they would see that coming, right? Hey, we're changing the class system, and we know we're going to have to do quests because that's what they're tied to right now.
Yeah.
Well, some of them anyway. So I would expect that would get updated.
That doesn't make people play like complete dinguses. Absorb 3,000 damage. Okay, I'm losing. Head out's the gate.
Yeah. No, I would assume that they're going to adjust the quests. I think that's a safe bet. Just don't get too specific.
I wouldn't mind, like, a chain quest would be really cool though. Like because I get rid of all my, when I play with friends, I don't quest because I have ranked play that just knocks those suckers out. Crazy. It'd be really cool to have a chain quest though. Like the game notices that, you've got a support, an assassin, and a tank quest, but you do all your tank quests first. And it's like, would you like to just tank? You want to keep going? Would you like to turn one of your quests into a tank more quest?
Yeah, why not? I like it. I mean, the chain quests are great. I enjoy them as well. So I guess we'll just have to see when the new roles roll out. So, next couple of questions are not necessarily Heroes related, but we figure we'd wrap it up with a mildly off topic, but on topic in terms that this is a podcast. And Adam writes in and says, "Hi, Garrett and Kyle. First off, I want to say I love you guys. Kyle, your Twitch stream is great, and Garrett, your plethora of podcasts are all of the highest quality and very enjoyable." Thank you, Adam. Thank you. I'm hoping to start a podcast of my own, not about video games, with a friend of mine, and I have no idea where to start. We have recording equipment, but when it comes to how to prepare for and produce a show, we have no idea what we're doing. In your estimation, what would be your biggest suggestions for a podcast noob like myself? Keep up the great work, guys. Well, there's a lot we could do here, but to keep it relatively simple, I would say, first off, pick a day. Stick to that day.
Sure.
The most important thing, in my opinion, when it comes to content creation is being consistent with how often and when you put out your new piece of content. When we did StarCast, I think we first started off on Wednesday, eventually State of the Game went to Wednesdays, and we were like, we're moving! Because there's no point! But we decided on Wednesday, and come hell or high water, we got together, we recorded an episode, and it went out on Wednesday. I think that's the number one way. That's the best piece of advice I can give anyone that wants to try and build an audience from zero.
Yeah, consistency.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. As to how to prepare for the show, I think everyone's different. I had someone ask me very recently, or tell me that someone had given them the advice that you have to script out everything, and shows are bad if you don't. And I think that is the wrongest advice I've ever heard in my life. I do like preparation a lot. We have very extensive notes, but we don't plan out every single word by any means. And so what I'm really getting at here is that I think it depends on the show. I think it depends on the talent, you and your hosts. It's different for everybody. A show like Into the Nexus today was very scripted. I got into the show notes, and Kyle, you had already just filled the strategy section out with tons of bullet points and talking points in terms of how to get through talking about in a primarily audio format, how to play a map like Braxis, how to play a map like Towers of Doom, because that type of discussion, I think we both agree, requires that level of preparation.
Right. That is a very particular topic that we are going to have to deep dive on, and it required a lot of prep. I mean, that took a lot of time to prepare, and that's something I'm very proud and happy to do. For me, those are bullet points in the show, and because it's a little bit of a back and forth because I am dyslexic. Give me a paragraph and my brain goes, where? What am I looking at? So bullet points and deciphering that into something that is said is much easier for me. But I also enjoy the energy behind it. When something's very scripted, for instance, Dungeons and Dragons, when the DM's like, you guys ready? All right. You enter a room and they whip out this piece of paper and they just start reading. I check out. I can't pay attention. We both have kind of quote voices we go into on this show when we're reading straight from the page. And those are quotes. And I like to keep them small because otherwise there's just a tone in the air that makes me go, I could have read this anywhere. Why don't you just hand out your leaflet, Mr. Dungeon Master, and we'll all read it for ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm a big fan of the bullet point as well because it leaves natural conversation open. You don't have to stick to anything. Like the topic is Vala nerfed. All right, let's just talk about the nerf. I've got numbers here. I'm not going to read all of them. They're there in case a question comes up. On the flip side, I have a solo podcast. Most of those are 100% scripted.
Sure.
Because it's just me by my lonesome, and there'd be a lot of uhs. So
if you're sitting on expertise, you can solo show, but you do want still some places to keep you grounded and getting back on topic, because you will lose yourself when you talk to yourself for extended period of times. I did an old solo Q&A episode show, which was when Heroes first came out. Just basically expound for 40 minutes straight about something Heroes or Dota related to just get the information out there as to how to play. Nowadays, we've built up this information. Those things aren't as useful.
yeah, I don't tend to script my email replies on that show, by the way. That's an easier thing for me to just talk naturally about, to react to it in real time. But if I'm trying to tell you the timeline of Sylvanas Windrunner during the Third War, that needs to be written down.
Now, there is something on the producing side that's really important, and that is actually recording.
Yeah.
Making sure you actually got the sound bites into the computer, into a file that is functional.
So Adam here says that they have recording equipment. I would assume that they know how to use it. And a lot of it comes down to personal preference. I use Audacity still. It was the first thing I ever tried because it was free. It's very simple. It's very lightweight. I have access to everything Adobe makes because I'm also a graphic designer. I still don't use Audition just because I first learned on Audacity, and it does everything I need it to do. If, like us, you stream live, cool. You've got a backup recording. You don't even need to... Your redundancy is more or less taken care of. If you're really worried, have all your co-hosts, wherever they may be, also record their side of the thing. We've done that. We don't really worry about it anymore because we stream 99% of our recordings live. So they go to Twitch. Whether you're using OBS or XSplit, there are options in both of those streaming softwares to save a copy of your stream to your hard drive. So now you've got a copy on Twitch, which you can download from Twitch. You've got a hard copy on your hard drive, and you've got whatever audio software you were using to record your podcast in the first place. There you go. You've got 3 copies of your show. You're probably set. In terms of
you still need to make that once a week production, and everything you can do to make sure whatever that record is completed when it enters the computer. Really do that. I know people who spend weeks in editing trying to get their shows up, and it's admirable, but live to hard drive is the way to go.
I think so for your own sanity. And again, if you're doing something more like produce content, like kind of like when I talk about Warcraft lore, it's different. There's a lot of editing that goes into that, but even the editing is planned. I still do large chunks of the voice work all at once. If I take a break that needs to be edited, it's intentional because I know I'm putting in music here. I'm putting in a clip from another game. I'm with you. Live to hard drive has kept me sane. I remember in the StarCast days going back and deleting deleting dead air, manually adding bumpers in a timeline where the show was 2 hours long. I couldn't find where they were supposed to go. And it was killing me inside. So either don't use bumpers or figure out how to get them in to your show live. I use an iPad with a soundboard app plugged directly into my audio interface. That's how I get bumpers into the show, which means it's just recorded live right there when I hit the button. So I'm glad you brought that up, Kyle. I definitely was going to skip the live to hard drive bit.
Yeah, it's an important part of getting it done. Other than that, we're on Discord right now because the sound quality is really good, particularly when we have multiple guests, but it's also a better program for talking over each other.
Yes. Recently started using Zoom for Angry Chicken. I'll probably start using it for everything else. It's amazing. I'm really impressed by it, but it costs money. So, anything else? So we got the consistency. I mean, other than your podcast needs to exist, so you need to record it and post it somewhere. Consistency is the most important. Keep it live to hard drive as much as you can for your own sanity, and prep to the amount that you need. Prep should
agree, but what do you use to host the show? Just throwing it out there. What program, what website?
Oh, I recently switched to SoundCloud. But you can use anything. I like SoundCloud. It's super user-friendly and lightweight. And also just a good platform in its own right that a lot of people use. So why not? Why not tap into that? I think we're good. Is that it? Is that everything?
Yeah. Giving
Cool.
back for Thanksgiving.
Yep. So good luck with your podcast there, Adam. And once it's up, right back in. Tell us the name. We'll give you a little pimpage. So thank you everybody for all of the questions, whether it was an email or in the patron question channel. We very much appreciate it. So that's going to wrap it up for this earlier episode. We'll be back. Let's see. The date is actually going to be Thursday, November 29th. So we will return to our regularly scheduled programming once Thanksgiving has wrapped up as we march towards yet another holiday here at the end of the year. So we'll be back then. But for now, let us just thank our patrons one more time. Thank you for supporting us, everyone, over at patreon.com/ITN. Huge thanks to our producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, Pythagos, and our newest producer, Crusader Dave. If you'd like some Into the Nexus swag, we've got t-shirts over at shirts.amove.tv. We have etched glassware, things like coffee mugs, wine glasses, stuff like that, over at etched.amove.tv. We'll see you next Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/AMoveTV if you'd like to join live. And you can follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. Before we go, Kyle, where can everybody find the rest of the wonderful work you're doing around the web?
You can find me at twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson. Of course, things are going to be a little odd for the holidays, but VODs are up there. VODs are also over on youtube.com/Kyle Fergusson. Here's the Storm Play. And of course, that lovely and very much betrayed Diablo 1 playthrough.
I need to tune in.
Kristen has played it a lot before, and she got me killed.
On purpose?
You know, she said, hey, what's through that door? And I said, I don't know. What is through that door? Death was through that door, Garrett.
Tell her she's my favorite.
I will.
Thank you. I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. All of the podcasts I do, including this one, can be found at amove.tv. I'm working on, speaking of my solo show, I'm working on a new one right now. Going to talk some more Sylvanas. There's some lore, and then there's some confusion about massive monkey wrench bomb drops, possible retconnings that have come out of certain Blizzard employees very recently about the character of Sylvanas. So that'll be coming out tomorrow. And so go and listen to that. Other than that, I hope everybody has a great holiday. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. But until the next episode of Into the Nexus, good luck and have fun.
Take care.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Badass.
Thank you for the questions, everybody.
Yeah, we appreciate them. Some good ones in there.
Yeah.
I always love waxing philosophic about podcasting.
Oh, it's a big part of our lives for sure.
Yeah. Just killing lights, getting warm.
Nice HGC shirt.
Oh, thank you, sir. I didn't get one this year. I should have.
Yeah, the jacket's pretty badass.
Yeah,
Big one?
I really like the jacket.
Letterman.
Yeah, I dig it. I wish I had gotten one. But yeah, folks, thanks for tuning in. Obviously won't be a show on Thursday. This was the show for this week. We're gonna miss seeing you guys on Thursday, but we'll see you very soon. Hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving, and we're dropping the stream now. Bye.